Welcome to this week's press conference, heading into the home opener with Northern Colorado on Saturday here in the Dakota Dome. 1 p.m. kickoff with the Bears. We'll start with opening comments from Coach and then go straight into questions from there. Take it away, Coach.
Yeah, appreciate everybody. Obviously, looking back on our Saturday, certainly not an outcome any of us are comfortable with. A lot of growth that needs to happen. Certainly saw a lot of bright spots and ones that we need to get corrected to get our season online. Felt like we took a step forward defensively in some ways. Saw some decent performances from Mikey Munn, getting his first career pick. Matt Walsh doing the same. Nathan LePerry with a couple of QB pressures and sacks there. So it was nice to see those guys, step up and start to break into their careers. And offensively, obviously started the game really fast with a 10-0 start, exactly what we wanted to do by taking the football in that game. But a special teams mistake kind of got us off pace there, and didn't respond well from that point moving forward, and found ourselves in a ball game that we weren't able to finish with the ball in a 2-minute drive to tie it or win it. So a lot of work to do. Certainly not deterred in any capacity in our program right now. Excited about our opportunity to take on a good Northern Colorado team. Gave, obviously, Colorado State everything they wanted and more last week, and an opponent that I think is a great measuring stick to where we're at from week 2 to week 3. So with that, I'll open it up for you guys.
Jay, go ahead.
Hey, Trev.
What's up, Jay?
Yeah. Hey. I guess I'll start with the defense. I mean, you lost 65 yards passing, 3 yards per rush, 204 total yards, so just over 3 yards per play. As you look for silver linings out of what was, as you said, disappointing in all other ways, that certainly feels like a performance, that you can build on.
Yeah, I think, and regardless of stats, I think, number one, that group's always been able to step up in big moments. I'm proud of them for, after the fumbled kick return, holding them to 3 points there and forcing a field goal on a really short field was a good thing to see moving forward. But, we had a 4th and 2 on the goal line to essentially, have a chance to win the game there, early on in hindsight, and missed opportunity there that we had really fit up. Guys did a great job. Regardless of statistics, I think we just took a step forward in execution, took a step forward a little bit in confidence, fundamentally took a little bit of a step forward, but there's so much growth that has to happen for that to be another elite unit, and they know that. But some of the names that popped up are a bunch of guys that are brand new to our program, and for us to do that, we need to take another step forward like that against Northern Colorado.
Offensively, did you feel like, as you look back at the tape on Aiden, did you feel like he was just pressing? Was there timing that was off? Was it just simple executional things, or what do you make of that? Just because I think that was a performance that certainly surprised me from him, and I think certainly probably was for him as well. It's just that we don't see those games out of him very often.
Yeah, I think number one, like when you watch the tape, it isn't all Aiden Bauman, right? That's the quarterback position, right? And then of course you're gonna see the everything as a result. But we had some really easy executable errors up front. With that group that saw a little bit more movement, a little bit more, some different pictures, and how we, get that in front of them more, with 4 or 5 guys brand new and doing that together with a team that's a lot more movement based than Iowa State was. Put them in situations, and Aiden in situation, our backs in situations that didn't let them be their best selves. So, when you pointed at Aiden, obviously that's the quarterback position. He'd be the first one to be like, hey, I'll be better and say all the right stuff. But, that whole unit looks at that tape and says, we didn't execute the way holistically we want to execute to go finish drives. And And more so in the second half. They started fast. I went into that game, we said, hey, if we win the toss, we're taking the ball because we believe in that unit to go get us a lead and start that game right, and did that to a T. How that consistently moved through the game was the issue. It wasn't the top end of the play. It was the consistency of the play. So, yeah, Aiden would take back, and then, to be honest, a couple of the decisions he made were fantastic decisions, just some weird defensive decisions, just cutting some people loose to go drive on some things that you probably shouldn't, and you might pay the price for in the long run by making some of those decisions. So I like Aiden's decision making. I like where he's at. We holistically in offense got to give everybody the opportunity to just be a little better and finish drives.
You feel like it was just mostly that execution and not like a schematic thing at all, or issues with what you wanted to do? It was just how you went about trying to accomplish what you set out to.
1,000%. I believe wholeheartedly in what we do. It's been proven. I think that's the thing that talking to the team a little bit too. It's like, I think if you haven't been through the ups and downs of what football can be, it can easily rip your confidence away from you, right, as a competitor. And so when you've been through some of those bumps in the road, and I certainly have in my time here, the systems, the process, and all that are gonna turn out to, as long as we double down and stick to what we do, they turn into positive results. And some of that growth happens through learning, hey, on the field in tough manners. And I think it's mainly, if you go right to schematics all the time, then you just hit the reset button. It's just new schematics that you got to execute the same way, right? So what we do, I love, I believe in wholeheartedly offensively. It's proven to be really successful nationally, and we'll continue to do that. The execution of it, and versus things that we don't practice against ourselves in that way every day. There's some growth that way. And when you have an experienced group, that's easy to do. When you have a group that's gaining that experience, sometimes you run into some of these buzzsaws.
What's Charles' status? Didn't really see exactly what went on there, but is he good to go? Or?
Yeah, we pulled him a little bit precautionary, swelled up a touch in the knee, and we wanted to make sure that it wasn't something more than we thought it might be on Saturday. Not that it might be. I guess nobody made any determination of it being something, but it was precautionary. It got pretty stiff on him, and so at that point it was, hey, we feel great about LJ and Reed and Carson and what we were doing, and we didn't want to throw him back out there without being able to go through a full eval on him. So feel good about him. He's working his tail off. I feel very comfortable with him.
Okay. Last one for me, just how important is Saturday, just to get right and get home and try to find that rhythm that you've been missing a little bit.
Yeah, it's enormous, right? Like we've got to get going. We all know where we're at as a program, just in regards to where we're at in the season. We're in the first half of the first quarter. There's a lot of football to be played, and we have to make steps week to week. This team in its state going into the season, we knew we had to play our best football as this thing went on, and we weren't going to play our best football in week one. And if we did, that was probably going to be even more concerning, because there's a lot of challenges in front of us. There's a lot of good teams, and our expectations are still where they are. So we've got to go out and execute and play great football and win in a way that we feel like, yeah, that's the brand of ball we want to play, and our guys gain the confidence of saying, yeah, this is exactly how I'm able to do it as a young player, a new player, or anything in between. So, it's a big game for us because it's the next game, and we want to take that week 2 to 3 jump, and need to.
Thanks, Trev.
Zach, you want to go ahead here?
Yeah, Coach. First couple of drives you've had each game have been really good. Obviously, you got a touchdown, I think both of them in opening drives are close to that. What do you think has kind of been the reason that it hasn't been able to carry over after those opening couple of series? Other than obviously Iowa State being really good and defensively, why do you think it's been tough to find the same level of success and consistency outside that opening series thus far?
Yeah, Zach, I don't think there's a common denominator there. I think when you have real comfort in the game plan and you come in and you execute it well right away, it should continue to show itself. When you turn on the tape and 10 of 11 guys are where you need them to be, and you feel good about the play call, you feel good about the execution of 90% of it. But in the game of football, it's a 100%, or you make up for the 90 with effort and playmaking. And so each drive, although you look at it and go, yeah, we didn't get the job done, didn't score, you find 9 things that you're like, that's the way we would have wanted it done, and you get yourself behind the sticks because of one critical thing or 2 critical things on a play, and that's just football. And so our objective is to get that to the point where you're a mistake-free, hey, everybody's perfect. That's not the game, but that we're making up for mistakes or using effort and technique to make sure we mitigate those mistakes and turn them into productive plays. And how we're going about it, I do believe in wholeheartedly and continue to. And, our offense will get its footing and go. It will. And we're as far off as you feel after a game like this, outside looking in, and you turn that tape on and go, that could have been us, like we know us in a lot of ways, and it's not that far off. And so, if you try and put it into one category, here's the why. It's not that. It's the error up front. It's an error in the perimeter blocking. Hey, we needed to catch that, make that 50-50 ball and in critical times. When those things start piling up, next thing you know, you look at your team and you're like, okay, that's where we need to be. How far can we take it?
I guess, how do you worry that guys might be trying to do a little too much in a situation where you get off to a tough start? Maybe just how do you remind them, like, hey, you got to play within yourself? It's the old cliche of playing within yourself, but do you worry that when a situation like this comes around that maybe guys are trying to do too much and sometimes that leads to some of these struggles?
Well, Zach, I'll tell you, you hit it right on the head, and it's not what's going to happen next. What's already happened, We fumbled the kick return. Mikey Munn, who's an unbelievable kid, knows everything about it. It's a short sky kick. He panics as a young guy and says, I thought that ball might go over his head. And I tried to just go secure it. And it's not his responsibility. We've never asked him to do that. You try and press a little bit to be the savior sometimes. And you don't need to be that in football. You need to do your 1/11th as well as you can and play with high effort and trust your teammates to do theirs. And there's been a little bit of that. You hit it on the head. And so I think for us, that's a big message to our group is just, hey, settle back, and there's no superheroes needed here. We need to play our brand of football, hard, tough, competitive, together, trusting our teammates and watch this thing come together. So yeah, you do we don't worry about it, I should say, but you make sure guys aren't pressing and playing out of character, because that just leads to more watered down football, if you want to call it that.
Thank you, sir.
You bet.
Trey, go ahead.
Hey, Coach, just how much, of this week's game plan revolves around, correcting your own mistakes and focus on yourselves as a team, versus tailoring it specifically to Northern Colorado's, tendencies and how they do, attack that team this week in practice? Yeah,
I think, number one, it's about us, Trey. Our ability to be responsive from that tape. Again, I said earlier, it's not what we're doing, it's how we're doing it. And our ability to coach the guys into success does have a lot to do with focus on us, our process in their head spaces, and make sure they have the tools and competencies to be unbelievably successful. Can't avoid the fact that you're playing an opponent and you have to dig in, wholeheartedly into everything that they do and how they do it. And it's our staff's job, right? Our staff has to do a great job this week of focusing on all the corrections and make sure those are understood holistically and not just moving on. I think we've done that between Sunday and Monday. I think our guys have a great understanding of, how to be successful this week based on, those corrections from our Saturday's game. And now we're, focused on putting those into play alongside of, prepping for a really good Northern Colorado team. So, yeah, I mean, being as responsive as you want to be from the loss to gain the growth and experience you need to be successful moving forward. It is a lot of focusing on yourself. But, we have a really good opponent that we need to have a high level of respect for and prepare accordingly.
Absolutely, and just one more from me. In your first year here as head coach, how have you been able to establish a culture over the course of the offseason for your team, to be able to weather these kind of early struggles and still be able to focus on those long-term goals you have set this season?
Yeah, I think, for us, our culture has been a work in progress since 2019, frankly. And I think that's been well documented and seen by you guys just being around the program a little bit and the professionalism in which we try and put on display in everything we do. That hasn't changed just because I took this role on as opposed to being the defensive coordinator. We had a high standard for discipline, accountability, toughness, and our guys have gained a lot of confidence in that mindset and in that process over the years. So looking at what we were kind of facing coming into the year, we talked as a team about hey, there's going to be adverse moments in every football season, and it might be a game like this where we drop one early that maybe outside looking in we shouldn't have. And how do we handle that as a football team? That can rattle a lot of groups up. It hasn't rattled this group up. I think our focus is right where it needs to be. It's on growth. It's on ourselves. It's on understanding where we're at and where we're going, and seeing where we're at in the big picture of this thing. And that's in again, we've talked about in a room. There's a lot of football to be played. And we understand that. And for us to play our best football and kind of earn our championship rounds at the end of the season, we've got to be able to be pretty good round by round. And so far through 2, we haven't gotten the results, but we need to keep taking those steps forward.
Thanks, Coach.
Alex, go ahead.
Hey, Coach. Yeah, just one for me today. I mean, you guys were undefeated last year at home. You guys are coming back home looking for the first win. Just kind of what are you expecting from the leaders on the team to kind of step up for this home opener?
Yeah, we actually got the leadership council together yesterday and just had a conversation about we don't need guys to do anything more than just be great at their position and great in their rooms and be what they've been. So, nothing extraordinary. We don't need to be anything extraordinary. We need to be us. We need to do our jobs well. We need to do a high effort and do all the things that are right in alignment with winning. That's not looking backwards at last week. That's certainly looking 100% forward on Northern Colorado. And I know that they're really looking forward to being back at home in the Dome with our fan base.
Awesome. Thanks, Coach.
You bet.
Anybody got anything else?
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week.